So in my life, probably in yours, we've seen a lot of one-hit wonders. People out there who have short-term success. Maybe they're in sales and they have a really good quarter. Maybe they have just one big year. Maybe they're an entrepreneur and they come off to a good start, but that goes away. And we see this a lot. Why is it that some people have this short-term fleeting success and then it goes away? We also see it with athletes. Now, clearly there are tragedies that come into play that have nothing to do with the person and their approach. An athlete that has a catastrophic injury, or an entrepreneur who has some strange, weird catastrophe take place from an unfair legal situation or some sort of betrayal. These things can happen. But outside of those, most of the problems that we face are self-inflicted problems. And how is it that some people have long-term success and others don't? I actually wrote a book on this called Perpetual Motivation. I wrote it when I was only 27 years old. I'm 56 right now. So if I rewrote the book, it'd be quite a bit different. But there are some truths that remain in that book and the insights that I saw, because it was about those people that I had witnessed that had long-term success. Now I've had a chance to observe them for even longer, so my insights are different. But the thing that I would say is I'm going to come through at this from a twofold perspective, because these are the most important things that people have to have long-term success. The first one is that they need to have order. And the reason they need order is because there's no such thing as peace anywhere without order, and you can't have prosperity without peace. This happens in the home. If you don't have order, you can't have peace, you can't have prosperity. Clearly, it happens if you're running a business or organization, but it also happens in your own life. If you don't establish the order that allows for you to say, I get up at this time, I have these daily routines, I have order, by the way, in my whole life, the way I take care of myself physically, the way I take care of myself financially, clearly from your faith perspective, to have that order, the order with your family, to have a particular bedtime, to have a particular diet, that you stay consistent with these things over a period of time. See, what happens is a lot of people look back on the old days where they were prosperous, they did well, and they say, back then I was in such great shape. Back then I was so disciplined. Back then, my relationships were in order and intact. But when they went out of order, I lost everything. When I lost my health, I lost everything. I couldn't gain it back. When I struggled with my faith, I lost that. Now, this does not mean that people cannot have a certain extended level of success without order. There are people who have crazy things happening in their lives by way of what I just mentioned, physically, financially, relationship-wise, maybe no adherence at all to paying attention to where they will be when they die. But you can only have success through grit for so long that way before it just starts to get too wonky and you start to unravel, almost like one of your tires is loose, until it finally falls off and it drags the car into a ditch. You have to have order to get there. So that's the first side of it. The second side is even more important, because this is the side that brings you into order. It's the thing that allows you to be effective when you're in a meeting, when you're in a sales setting, when you're building a team, when you're just out there training for whatever it is that you need to do. And that is to have a passionate, never-ending, deep love affair with the truth. When people don't love what is true and they fall into self-deception, they take shortcuts. They can't have order. They can't have peace. They can't know reality. And if you've been around that person, they've been on your team or you've partnered with them, and you can see that they are now in the land of self-justification or whatever deceit that they have, you cannot be effective with that person because they will not accept reality. Now, sometimes we're the person that can't accept reality, and we think it's the other person. They believe in a dream, and we say that's not real. But in fact, that dream comes true. Why? Because they saw something that we didn't see, and they had the courage and the bravery to work through that. So we can't just point fingers, but there are some objective realities that we can know. And this is how we can test our own ability to understand reality, to understand the truth, to be in love with the truth, and also to compare it to others. So I remember one time I was on a committee. It was a building committee to build a new church for a particular parish. And there was an old church that stood for hundreds of years and it was beautiful. And the question was, do we tear the old church down when we build a new church, or do we keep it standing and just pay the maintenance fees because it's an iconic figure and maybe use it for something else? And the three people who were the chair of this, there was a three co-chair, they wanted to tear the church down. It was just what they wanted to do. So they just came in and said, we're going to tear it down. Basically wanted to make the decision for everybody there. And I was like, no, 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 no. Like, this is a big community. It's been around forever. You're not just going to make this decision as chairs of this. You have no authority to do that. Well, they said, okay, fine, we'll do a survey. So we did the survey. The survey came back, and I was super pleased. I also wanted to keep the church, by the way. 87% of the people surveyed wanted to keep the church standing. Plain and simple. We get to the meeting. They hand out the survey, where they didn't hand it out, actually. People had to access this if they wanted to, but they could beforehand. And they said, well, the survey came back. It's clear. We want to tear down the church. I looked at it. I was like, 87% said they don't want to tear down the church. And they just looked at it and said, yep, so we're going to tear it down. I mean, it was so far outside of reality. By the way, there's no embellishment to the story. It was like that cut and dry and clear. The people with self-deception can do anything. It's like in the movie Dumb and Dumber when he was like, he says to this woman, so is there any chance, And she's like, not if you, I don't remember the exact thing, but like if there was no one left on earth in any circumstance, she'd go on and on and on. And he goes, so you're saying there's a chance, huh? It's like you want to see something, so you just see it no matter what. You have to have a passionate desire and love affair for the truth if you're going to operate effectively long term. So if you start believing all sorts of lies, and people see this all the time, like DEI, when that came into business, everybody knew it was a lie. You have to be like hell-bent on destruction to believe that stuff. But people are like, okay, sounds good. Out of weakness, out of fear, out of pressure, to believe that any principle in DEI, they had any rationale of fairness, by the way. And so they were like, yeah, go, until they saw all of the destruction that started to take place when they engaged in it. And that's why when organizations get rid of that sort of junk, they start to grow effectively with a greater cohesion. If you believe in these types of things that are, a man can be a woman, all these crazy things, you've lost reality and you can't actually function effectively in most things. Now, you can get by, but if you're willing to accept that lie, you're willing to accept this lie and that lie and the next lie and any other lie that's out there. And if you don't have a love affair with the small t truth, meaning 2 + 2 is 4, not 2 + 2 is 7 on Wednesdays if I'm a boy and I like pizza. No. Like, it's just 4, okay? If you don't have a love affair for that, then you can't ultimately have a love affair for capital T, which is Jesus Christ, which means you're going to deny him at some point. Love all truths in order to love the truth, and you can be in heaven forever.